A big list of music styles. Chapter 1. A list of music styles from en.wikipedia.org/wiki/list_of_styles_of_music. A list of music styles from en.wikipedia.org/wiki/list_of_styles_of_music:*a-f. Two-step garage, a chaotic style of UK garage. 20th century classical music, loose term for orchestral music made during or after the 20th century. 4-beat, a breakbeat hardcore style played between 150 and 170 BPM consisting of a fast looped breakbeat and a drum at every 4 beats. A cappella, any singing performed without any background music/instruments. Absolute music, music that is not explicitly about anything. Acid house, a psychedelic style of house music, defined primarily by the deep bass lines and squelching sounds of the Roland TB-303 electronic synthesizer sequencer. Acid jazz, a psychedelic music genre that combines elements of jazz, soul music, funk, and disco. Acid rock, a harder style of psychedelic rock, characterized with long instrumental solos, few, if any, lyrics and musical improvisation. Acid techno, a style of techno that developed out of acid house. Acid trance, a psychedelic style of trance music. Acousmatic music, a style of electroacoustic music that is specifically composed for presentation using speakers, as opposed to a live performance. Acoustic music, a music that solely or primarily uses instruments which produce sound through entirely acoustic means, as opposed to electric or electronic means. Adult contemporary music, any music with lush and soothing qualities that focuses on melody and harmony. African American music, any music made by African Americans. African heavy metal music performed by African musicians. African hip hop music performed by African musicians. Afrobeat, a large-scaled and energetic combination of funk and jazz. Afrobeats, umbrella term for West African pop styles. Afro-Cuban jazz, style of jazz influenced by traditional Afro-Cuban music. Afro-swing, a genre of music that developed in the UK during the mid-2010s, derivative of dancehall and Afrobeats, with influences from trap, hip-hop, R&B, and grime. African popular music, pop music informed by traditional African styles. Aguinaldo, traditional Latin American Christmas music. Alain. Aleatoric music, music the composition of which is partially left to chance. Alternative country, any style of country music that deviates from the normal, usually by incorporating elements found in alternative rock, particularly its personal lyrics. Alternative dance, a fusion of alternative rock and post-disco, usually contains alternative rock song structures and post-disco beats. Alternative hip-hop, any style of hip-hop music that deviates from the norm, usually by possessing lyrics not usually found in mainstream hip-hop as well as musically combining it with other genres. Despite its popularity among alternative rock fans, only some alternative rappers actually fuse hip-hop with that genre. Alternative metal, any style of heavy metal music that deviates from the norm, usually by incorporating elements found in alternative rock, particularly its melodic vocals. Many alternative metal bands also tend to either have funk or hip-hop music influences. Alternative R&B, any style of contemporary R&B that deviates from the norm, usually by having a more electronic influence. Originally a synonymous term for neo-soul, alternative R&B, which now only refers to styles originating from the 2000s, alternative R&B tries to expand beyond the conventions of genres altogether. Alternative rock, any style of rock music deviates from the norm, usually by having melodic vocals and personal lyrics, often applied to styles that sprang out following the initial punk rock music scene. Alternative reggaeton, any style of reggaeton that deviates from the norm. Ambient music, a style of incredibly slow electronic music that uses long repetitive sounds to generate a sense of calm and atmosphere. Ambient house, a style of house music that contains the atmospheric musical textures of ambient music. Ambient pop, a style of dream pop with heavy ambient influence that developed in the 1980s. Ambient techno, a fusion of techno and ambient music. Ambrosian chant, plain song used during the Ambrosian Rite. American folk music developed in the United States. American folk music revival, a musical revival of American folk music that occurred from the 1940s through the 1960s, resulting in contemporary folk music. Americana, music that invokes the musical ethos of the United States, i.e. roots rock. Anarcho-punk, punk rock with anarchist themes. Ancient music, music created in the early stages of literate cultures. Anglican chant, plain song used by Anglican Church. Anatolian rock, a style of folk rock that fuses Turkish folk music with rock music. Anti-folk, a mocking style of folk that subverts the earnest, politically informed lyrics of folk revivalists. APX. Apala, Nigerian music originally used by the Yoruba people to wake worshippers after fasting during Ramadan. Appalachian music, American folk music originated from the Appalachia region that later became the basis for old-time music and country music. Arabesque, an Arabic style of music created in Turkey. Arabic pop music informed by traditional Arabic styles. Arena rock, any style of rock music inherently designed for large audiences, i.e. an arena, largely used as a pejorative label than as a description for an actual genre of rock. Argentine rock, rock music performed by Argentinian musicians. Armenian chant, chants used in the liturgy of the Armenian Apostolic Church. Ars antiqua, European music from the late Middle Ages, which advanced concepts of rhythm. Ars nova, style of French music from the late Middle Ages, rejected fiercely by the Catholic Church. Ars subtilior, style of French music from the late Middle Ages. Art pop, pop music made purposefully to bring the genre to artistic heights. Art punk, punk rock made purposefully to bring the genre to artistic heights, sometimes considered a style of post-punk. Art rock, rock music made purposefully to bring the genre to artistic heights. Ashik, music performed by mystic or traveling Turkish, Azerbaijan, Georgian, Armenian, and Iranian bands using vocals and the saz, performed since ancient times. Assyrian folk/pop music, pop, folk, and dance music informed by traditional Assyrian styles. Australian country music performed by Australians musicians. Australian hip-hop music performed by Australian musicians. Avant-funk, an avant-garde style of funk made purposefully to challenge the conventions of the genre. Avant-garde music considered to be ahead of its time, often using new, unusual, or experimental elements, or fusing pre-existing genres. Avant-garde jazz, an avant-garde style of jazz made purposefully to challenge the conventions of the genre, related and originally synonymous with free jazz. Avant-garde jazz still maintains some form of structure and uses composed melodies. Avant-garde metal, an avant-garde style of heavy metal music made purposefully to challenge the conventions of the genre. Avant-pop, any avant-garde form of popular music that is experimental, new, and distinct from previous styles while retaining an immediate accessibility for the listener. Avant-prog, a style that appeared in the late 1970s as the extension of progressive rock, chiefly by being a fusion of its two subgenres, rock in opposition and the Canterbury scene. Avant-punk, punk rock made purposefully to challenge the conventions of the genre. Axe, a style of Salvadorian, Bahian, and Brazilian music informed by Afro-Cuban and Afro-Brazilian styles. Azonto, a dance and music genre from Ghana. Bachata, an Afro-Dominican style waltz, consisting of despairing and romantic ballads, popular among Dominican artists. Baggy, the main music style of the Manchester scene that incorporates the psychedelic elements of acid house, particularly its deep bass line, into alternative rock. Bio, a Brazilian rhythmic formula built around the zabumba drum that later combined itself with elements of mestizo, European, and African styles. Bakersfield sound, a raw and gritty country music style significantly influenced by rock and roll that acted as a reaction against the slick, overproduced Nashville sound. Baila, a Sri Lankan style that begun among the Afro-Sinhalese, or Karif, community. Baishaziu, an orchestral Chinese style used by the Naxi people that is often found in Taoist or Confucian ceremonies. Bajura, initially an acoustic style of Malayan pop music played at gatherings, particularly weddings, which has since become mostly electronic. Bal musette, 19th century style of French accordion-based dance music. Balakadri, Guadeloupean music made from the quadrille, usually performed at balls. Balinese gamelan, Javanese and Balinese style made from xylophones, drums, and plucked strings. Balearic beat, a style of house music that originated from the Balearic Islands. Balkan brass, a Serbian music style made by soldiers that combined military brass with folk music. Ballad, usually slow, romantic, despairing and catastrophic songs. Ballata, 13th–15th century Italian musical and poetic form based on an ABA structure that acted as a form of dance music. Ballet, specific style of French classical music created to accompany the ballet dance. Baltimore Club, a music style originated from Baltimore that combines hip-hop music, breakbeat, house music. Bambay. Bambuco, a Colombian music style based on waltz and polska. Banda music, brass-based Mexican music. Bangsawan, a style of Malay opera based on Indian styles introduced by immigrants. Bantobal, a Cameroonian style of accordion music. Barbershop music, a style of a cappella close harmony vocal music that is generally performed in quartets. Barcarolle, a traditional music style from Italy sung by Venetian gondoliers. Bard, Soviet Union, a style of Russian music made by singer-songwriters during the latter half of the Soviet era. Barn dance, folk music played in a barnhouse. Baroque music, a style of Western art music made between the 17th and 18th centuries characterized by its usage of the harpsichord and contrapuntal melodies. Baroque pop, a style of rock music originating from the 1960s that contains elements of Baroque music, particularly its instrumentation and contrapuntal melodies. As Baroque pop is usually not seen as being a pop music genre, it is sometimes referred to as Baroque rock. Baranya, Russian folk music style. Bass line, style of speed garage that combines elements of dubstep, particularly its emphasis on bass. Batarumba, Cuban rumba music that incorporates bata and guaguancó. Batucada, an African-influenced style of Brazilian samba. Ball, a style of folk music, especially in Bengali region. BBH. Beach music, Californian genre from the 1950s that combined elements of all popular genres at the time, particularly big band and shag jazz. Beat music, a style of rock and roll developed in the United Kingdom characterized by its strong, driving beat that emphasize all the beats of a 4/4 bar. Unlike British rock and roll, beat music was seen as being musically on par with American rock and roll and was able to found success in the United States following the British invasion. Beatboxing, a cappella music created to emulate hip-hop beats. Beatlesque, artists who musically resemble the Beatles, such as Electric Light Orchestra, Oasis, and many power pop bands. Beautiful music, term of endearment for various easy listening genres. Bebop, a fast-paced style of jazz popular in the 1940s and 1950s that replaced the dance-oriented swing music, known for its complex chord progressions, instrumental virtuosity, and the predominant role of the rhythm section. Beguine/Beguine music style from French territory in the Caribbean, Martinique Island and precursor of jazz. Baguine music, style of Chinese traditional music popular in Taiwan and the province of Zhangzhou. Bel canto, a light, sophisticated style of Italian opera singing. Benskin, urban Cameroonian music. Bani Venton chant, plain song originated from Benevento. Benga music, Kenyan popular music based on Luo and Kikuyu folk music. Bent Edge. Berlin School of Electronic Music, heavily experimental electronic music that acted as a more avant-garde style of krautrock and inspired ambient and new age music. Bhajan, Hindu religious music. Bhangra, a popular style of Punjabi dance music that uses Western instruments along with traditional Punjabi instruments, named after the dance of the same name. Bhangraga, a fusion of Bhangra, reggae, and dance hall. Bibo. Big band music, large orchestras which play a style of swing music. Big beat, a 1990s style of breakbeat that incorporates elements found in acid house, specifically its synthesizer bass lines. Big room house. Begin, Guadeloupean folk music. Bihu, a popular folk music of Assam, India. Biker metal. Bio music, a style of experimental music which deals with sounds created or performed by living things. Bitpop, electronic music, where at least part of the music is made using old 8-bit computers, game consoles and little toy instruments. Popular choices are the Commodore 64, Game Boy, Atari 2600 and Nintendo Entertainment System. Blackened death metal, a fusion between death and black metal. Black metal, an extreme metal style known for its lo-fi recording, shrieking vocals, unconventional song structures and dark or supernatural lyrics. Black gaze, a fusion style between black metal and shoegazing. Black MIDI, sheet music consisting in huge amount of notes per instrument, generally written in digital MIDI format. Bluegrass music, a style of country music mixed with Irish/Scottish, via old-time music, and African American, via blues and jazz, influences. Blue-eyed soul, soul music performed by white musicians. Blues, an African American music genre from the Mississippi Delta area known for its usually depressing lyrics and its unique song structure, using playing techniques such as blue notes, blues scales, and the 12-bar chord progression. Blues ballad, fusion of blues and folk. Blues rock, a fusion of blues, specifically electric blues, and rock music, usually contains blues song structures and rock instrumentation. Bongo flava, East African hip-hop. Boogie, 1. A repetitive form of rhythm found in boogie-woogie. 2. A style of funk characterized by a mid-tempo post-disco rhythm, prominent use of slap bass, loud clapping sound, and its new wave melodic chords and synthesizers. Boogie rock, a style of blues rock that fuses rock music with boogie-woogie. Boogie-woogie, a danceable style of the blues centered on a specific form of rhythm called boogie. Boogaloo, a fusion of soul music and mambo. Boi, Amazonian folk music. Bollywood songs. Bosnian root music, Bosnian rural roots music. Bossa Nova, a well-known style of Brazilian music, a lyrical fusion of samba and jazz. Bothi ballad, folk songs, sung and popularized within the farm workers in the northeast of Scotland. Bounce music, energetic hip-hop music, native to New Orleans, frequently characterized by chromatic tics and call and response lyrics. Bouncy techno, an upbeat style of electronic dance music. Br Bulletin. Brass, music performed with brass instruments, prior to the advent of jazz. Breakbeat, a style of electronic dance music built on previously recorded breaks, often those originating from funk songs. Breakbeat hardcore, a fusion of breakbeat and acid house. Breakcore, a fast and frantic style of breakbeat influenced by hardcore and industrial music that is known for its intentionally diverse range of samples. Breakstep. Briga genre of Brazilian popular music. Breton, folk music of Brittany, France, known for its use of woodwind. Brill building sound, a distinct style of pop music developed in the Brill building using Tin Pan Alley songwriter. Brit funk, funk performed by British musicians, often influenced by soul, jazz and Caribbean music. Britpop, British alternative rock from the 1990s that subverted the depressing themes of the then popular grunge movement in favor of jangly, optimistic music with lyrics often touching on the themes of partying and working-class life. Despite its name, it is rarely viewed as a style of pop music. British blues, a style of electric blues developed by British musicians. British folk rock, associated with the folk revival of the 1960s, British folk rock tends to use modern, often electric, instruments alongside or in place of traditional and acoustic folk instruments. British invasion refers to a period where British musicians, primarily of the beat music movement along with some pop acts, became popular in America during the 1960s. British hip-hop music originating from the United Kingdom. British rhythm and blues, as in the blues style, originating from the United Kingdom, usually more guitar-driven than its original form. British rock music originating from the United Kingdom. British rock and roll originating from the United Kingdom, commonly viewed as being an inferior version of its original counterpart. Its popularity was almost completely replaced by the much more lively beat music. Broken beat, a style of breakbeat played in a syncopated 4/4 rhythm with punctuated snare beats. Brastep, an aggressive and metal-influenced style of dubstep popular in America. Brown-eyed soul music performed by Latinos. Bruckdown, Belizean music inspired by European harmonies, African rhythms, and the call and response format. Bubblegum pop music known for its simplicity, happy and cute lyrics, and emphasis on image rather than substance. Buddhist music. Bulurenge, style of Colombian music with African rhythms and chants. Bikutsi, Cameroonian EDM, originating in the Bidi community. Bulerias, fast-paced flamenco music. Bunraku, Japanese folk music often played at puppet theaters. Burger highlife, style of high life played by Ghanaian Germans. Burgundian school, group of French, Belgian, and Dutch composers active in the 15th century, known for their secular forms. Bush ballad, Australian folk music often dealing with themes of Australian spirit and rebellion. Byzantine music, Greek music performed during the age of the Byzantine Empire, known for its ecclesiastical form, i.e. chants. Ca Dintolnik, Romanian folk music played with the alpenhorn. Ca Tru, a style of Vietnamese chamber music performed by one lute player and a geisha-esque female singer, used to entertain wealthy audiences, who would be included in the performances, and to perform in religious ceremonies. Cabaret, an often jazz-informed style of music played at upbeat stage plays or burlesque shows. Cadence Liso, fusion of cadence and calypso. Cadence Rampa, upbeat style of cadence. Cilng, modern Vietnamese folk opera. Cajun music, a style of American folk music developed by the Cajun people of Louisiana. Cakewalk. Kalinda, Trinidadian folk music played during practices of the martial art of the same name. Aljija, Macedonian folk style. Calypso music, a Trinidadian popular music genre inspired by both African, Viakiso, and French styles and is known for its lyrics dealing with the racist oppression of native Trinidadians at the time. Calypso-style Baila, fusion of Baila and Calypso. Campursari, Indonesian fusion genre, combining several folk styles with pop music. Can, Canadian blues, blues performed by Canadians. Candom, fusion of African and Uruguayan styles developed by African Uruguayan slaves in the 19th century. Canon, any music that combines a melody with copies of itself. Cantata, any music sung by a choir with instrumental backing. Cant Chico, the vocal component to flamenco music. Cant Jondo, flamenco music that incorporates deep vocals. Canterbury Scene, group of British avant-garde, progressive rock, and jazz fusion musicians based in the English city of Canterbury, Kent. Cantinas, upbeat style of Andalusian flamenco music. Cantiga, Portuguese ballad style from the Middle Ages. Canto Livre, Portuguese folk music known for its far-left political messages. Cantopop, any Chinese pop music sung in Cantonese. Canzone Napolitana, Italian music sung in Neapolitan. Cape Breton fiddling, a Celtic style of fiddle playing. Capoeira music, Brazilian music played during performances of the martial art of the same name. Carimbo music and dance from the northeast of Brazil. Carrizo, Trinidadian folk music, often considered an early form of calypso. Carnatic music, Southern Indian classical music. Carol, a festive song, often sung on Christmas or, rarely, Easter. Cartageneras, a style of flamenco known for its focus on folklore. Carnavalito. Cavaca, style of rhythm popular in Kenyan and Zarine music. Ce. Salempungan, Sudanese folk music. Cello rock, rock music that incorporates cellos. Celtic chant, a style of Christian liturgy chant developed in Britain, Ireland, and Brittany. Celtic fusion, any fusion that includes a Celtic music influence. Celtic metal, a style of folk metal/Celtic fusion that fuses Celtic music and heavy metal music. Celtic music, any music, usually folk music, of the Celts. Celtic punk, a Celtic fusion of Celtic music and punk rock. Celtic reggae, fusion of Celtic and reggae music. Celtic rock, a Celtic fusion of Celtic music and folk rock. Cha. Cha-cha-cha, Cuban folk music. Chacarera, Argentinian folk and dance music. Chakaka, music of the Swahili people of Kenya and Tanzania. Halga, fusion of Bulgarian ethnopop and dance music with Eastern and Arab elements, popular in southern Bulgaria. Chamamé, style of Argentinian, Paraguayan, Mesopotamian, and Brazilian folk music. Camarada, style of Argentinian and Uruguayan folk music. Chamber music, classical music performed for a small audience by a small orchestra. Chamber jazz, fusion of chamber and jazz music. Chamber pop, a style of indie pop that incorporates elements of orchestral pop, particularly its usage of an orchestra, in order to recreate the sounds of Baroque pop. Champeta, African Colombian folk music. Changi, Cuban music that fused African and Spanish styles. Chanson, French vocal-driven music. Chant, singing or speaking rhythmically to a very small number of pitches. Chap hop, a variety of music originating from England that mixes the hip-hop genre with elements from the Chapist or steampunk subcultures. Charanga, traditional Cuban dance music. Carnavalada, fusion of charanga, vallenata, and salsa. Sharikawi, music accompanying of the dance of the same name of the Garifuna people of West Africa. Charleston, dance. Chaztushka, humorous and fast-paced Russian and Ukrainian folk music. Chuvn, a down-tempo, trance-inducing style of Vietnamese folk music. Che Chi. Chio, a style of musical theatre performed by Vietnamese peasants. Chicano rock, rock music, often either a form of rock and roll or a style of Latin rock, performed by Mexican Americans. May or not be considered a form of rock en español, depending on whether the lyrics are sung in English or in Spanish. Children's music, any music, mostly folk music, marketed towards children. Chicago blues, blues performed by Chicago inhabitants, considered the first form of electric blues. Chicago house, house music performed by Chicago inhabitants, considered the first form of house music. Chicago soul, soul music performed by Chicago inhabitants. Chicken scratch, fusion of Native American, White American, Mexican, and European styles, performed by the Native American Tejano O'odham people. Chill out music, any music with a slow tempo designed to calm people after raves, originally a synonymous term for ambient house. Chill wave, indie pop style known for its loop synths and calming effects. Chinese music, any music performed by Chinese people. Chinese rock, rock music performed by Chinese people, often fused with traditional styles. Chiptune, electronic music that is made on vintage computers/game systems or emulations thereof. May also refer to electronic music that uses samples from video games or vintage computers. Cho Chr. Chaval Bwa, Martin Ican folk music. Chowdal, North Indian folk music performed during the Fagwe or Holi festival. Coro, fast-paced Brazilian pop music. Christmas carol, carols performed during the Christmas season. Christmas music, any music tied to the Christmas season. Christian electronic, EDM with Christian themes. Christian alternative rock with Christian themes. Christian country music, fusion of Christian and country music. Christian hardcore, fusion of Christian and hardcore punk rock. Christian hip-hop with Christian themes. Christian metal, fusion of Christian and heavy metal rock. Christian music, music with overt Christian themes. Christian punk, fusion of Christian and punk rock. Christian rock, rock music with Christian themes. Christian ska, ska music with Christian themes. Islandic, style of throat singing performed by the Tuva people of Siberia, created to mimic the chirps of crickets. Chula, dance and music genre which originated in Portugal. Chumba, folk and dance style of the Garifuna people of West Africa. Church music. Chutkai-pang, fusion of chutney, calypso and parang. Chutney music, Caribbean pop music that fuses calypso and cadence with several Indian styles. Chutney soca, fusion of chutney and soca music. Cicl. Cifra. Circus music, music made to accompany a circus. Classic country, mainstream country and western music hits from past decades. Classic female blues, an early, vaudeville style of blues performed by female vocalists. Classical music, Western art music known for its use of large orchestras and staff notation. Classical period, a clearer, slicker style of Western art music performed in the 18th and 19th centuries, known for its emphasis on homophones and melody. Close harmony, any music with notes performed in a close range. Colcor. Coladera, Cape Verdean folk music. Cold wave, French post-punk. College rock, a radio format made by and made for college students that centers on alternative rock. Combined rhythm, Dutch Antillean folk music inspired by zouk, merengue, and soca. Comedy music, any music that incorporates heavy themes of humor and comedy. Comedy rap, fusion of comedy and hip-hop music. Comedy rock, a comedic form of rock music. Comic opera, fusion of comedy and opera music. Compass, a modernized style of Haitian meringue music. Concerto, a three-part classical piece in which one instrument takes lead and is backed by an orchestra. Concerto grosso, a style of Baroque concerto in which the soloists and orchestra alternate playing. Conga, Cuban music played to accompany the dance of the same name. Conjunto, fusion of Mexican and German styles developed by Mexican Americans who had bought German instruments in Texas. Contemporary Christian music, pop music with overt Christian themes. Conscious hip-hop, a style of hip-hop music that's, while not directly political like its successor genre political hip-hop, still talks about the struggles within the African American community. Contemporary folk music, a modern style of Western folk music that sprang out of the American folk music revival. Contemporary leka, modernized and pop-informed style of leka. Contemporary R&B, a modern style of rhythm and blues, as in the catch-all term for African American popular music, that usually has an overall hip-hop/pop production style, electronic-backed rhythms, pitch-corrected vocals, and a smooth, lush style of vocal arrangement that heavily uses the melisma singing technique. Contradanza, 19th century Cuban dance music. Cool jazz, a relaxed, down-tempo style of jazz heavily inspired by classical music, that existed as a reaction to the fast-paced bebop. Coon song, music about black stereotypes. Coptic music, music, usually chants, performed within the Coptic Orthodox Church, usually contains elements of local Egyptian music. Corrido, Mexican storytelling ballad. Cucao. Country music, an American popular music genre originating from rural America with lyrics about the hardships of that culture that is played with acoustic guitars, steel guitars, banjos, fiddles, and harmonicas. Country blues, a rural, acoustic version of blues. As this style predates the existence of country music and only has lyrical similarities to that genre, it was renamed folk blues during the American folk music revival. Country folk, fusion of country and folk music. Country pop, fusion of country and pop music. Country rap, fusion of country and hip-hop music. Country rock, a style of roots rock that incorporates elements of country music, particularly its lyrics and usage of the steel guitar. Coupe décalé, Ivorian French EDM drawing on zouk and African influences. Cowpunk, fusion of country and punk rock music. CRCU. Crabcore. Creole music, folk music developed by the Louisiana Creole people. Cretan, Greek folk music performed by inhabitants of the island of Crete. Crossover thrash, fusion of thrash metal and hardcore punk. Crunk, fusion of hip-hop and EDM, known for its heavy bass lines and shouted, call and response vocals. Crunkcore, fusion of crunk and screamo. Crust punk, fusion of anarcho and hardcore punk and extreme metal. Xardosh, Hungarian folk music. Cuartito, Argentinian merengue music, originating in the city of Córdoba, and influenced also by Spanish and Italian styles. Cueca, Argentinian, Chilean, and Bolivian styles. Cumbia, fusion of Colombian folk music and African and Spanish styles bought from slaves and colonists, respectively. Cumbia villera, cumbia performed by inhabitants of the shanty towns of Buenos Aires. Curulao. Cyber metal. Czech bluegrass, bluegrass music performed by Czech musicians. Dabka, Arabic folk dance music, often played at weddings. Dadra, light vocal style of Hindustani classical music, originating from the Bundelkhand region. Dina, Latvian folk music. Dina, Lithuanian folk music. Dance music, any music designed to make the listener dance. Dance pop, a danceable style of pop music that contains post-disco rhythms. Dance punk, a danceable style of post-punk and a form of electronic rock that contains disco rhythms. Dance rock, a fusion of post-disco and post-punk, usually contains post-punk instrumentation and post-disco rhythms. Dance hall, Jamaican pop music that abandons reggae's roots influences for a slicker, EDM-inspired production. Dangdut, melodic and heavily optimistic style of Indonesian pop. Danger music, any music that will, somehow, potentially harm either the performers or the audience, linked heavily to noise rock. Dansband, Swedish folk music. Danza, Puerto Rican style of music that accompanies the ballroom-influenced dance of the same name. Danzon, Cuban dance music. Dapankuthu, Indian folk dance music, popular in the states of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, often used as filmy music in the movies produced in those states. Dark ambient, a style of industrial music that takes elements from ambient music to create a feeling of dread and foreboding, rather than the relaxation given off by most ambient music. Dark cabaret, fusion of cabaret and gothic rock. Dark core, chaotic and sinister style of jungle, which relied on pitch shifting and horror movie audio samples. Dark pop, fusion of industrial/goth rock synthesizers with hip-hop/techno drums. Dark step, style of dark-core jungle that takes its signature sinister feel and fuses it with upbeat breakbeats and ambient noises, creating an excessively chaotic tone. Dark wave, excessively pessimistic style of post-punk, which relied on tales of realistic sorrow, rather than the fantasy elements of the then-popular gothic rock. DDH. De Dragoste, Romanian love music. Deathcore, fusion of death metal and metalcore. Death grind, fusion of death metal and grindcore. Death industrial, fusion of death and industrial metal, linked heavily to the power electronics scene. Death metal, extreme metal known for its distorted guitar structure, growling vocals, blast beat drumming and dark or violent lyrics. Death doom, fusion of death and doom metal. Death rock, style of gothic rock known for its scratchy guitars, and lyrics focusing on supernatural and pessimistic themes, sometimes delving into intentionally campy horror themes. Decima, Hispanic genre of sung poetry. Delta blues, blues performed by inhabitants of the Mississippi Delta, considered the first form of blues. Deep funk. Deep house, style of Chicago house, inspired by jazz and soul music. Descarga, a genre of improvised Afro-Cuban music. Desi, a style of Hindustani classical raga, associated with the Asavari and Kayfithiat. Detroit blues, blues music performed by inhabitants of Detroit, Michigan. Detroit techno, techno performed by inhabitants of Detroit, Michigan, USA. Dammer, a tala used in Hindustani classical music, associated with the Drupad style, and played on a pakawaj. Drupad, vocal style of Hindustani classical music, considered the oldest still being performed today. Dhuan, a light instrumental style of Hindustani classical music. DDR. Diablada, Telluric Bolivian folk music style. Digital hardcore, fusion of hardcore punk and hardcore techno, known for its far-left lyrics. Dirge, a song of mourning, often played at a funeral. Dirty rap, hip-hop with sexual and pornographic themes. Disco, a style of dance music with elements of soul music, pop music, and salsa music that was originated from music venues that were popular with African Americans, Latino Americans, Italian Americans, LGBT people, and psychedelic hippies. Disco polo, Polish disco music. Diva house, style of house popular in LGBT nightclubs. Dixieland, an early, possibly the first, style of jazz developed in New Orleans. Djent, style of progressive metal known for its elastic power chords. Duina, Romanian folk music, informed by Middle Eastern styles. Dole wave, a style of alternative rock developed in Melbourne, Australia during the 2010s. Dondang Siang, love ballads from the Malaysian state of Malacca, influenced by Portuguese styles. Donegal fiddle tradition, an Irish style of fiddle playing from the Donegal County. Dongjing, Chinese traditional music of Naka people of the Yunnan province. Doo-wop, a simplistic and pop-oriented style of rhythm and blues, as in the blues style, known for its vocal harmonies and little to no instrumentation. Doom metal, a style of heavy metal known for its low-tuned sound, slow tempos, clean and non-growled vocals and pessimistic lyrics. Down-tempo, a slow-paced style of electronic music that differs from ambient music in that it also has a beat and rhythm. Sometimes treated as a synonym for trip-hop, it differs from that genre by having a less earthy sound. Dream pop, an atmospheric and melodic style of neo-psychedelia designed to make the audience feel dreamy. Despite its name, it is usually not considered a form of pop music. Drone metal, fusion of drone and heavy metal music. Drill music, Chicago rap, see drill, music genre, for more. Drone music, an experimental, minimalist style of ambient music, known for drawn-out and repetitive tones, giving it a droning feel. Drum and bass, a jungle-derived style of electronic dance music known for rapid-fire breakbeats and heavy bass lines. Drum step, fusion of drum and bass and dubstep. 2. Dub music, an electronic offshoot of reggae in which pre-existing recordings, usually the instrumental track of said recordings called rhythm, are heavily remixed, resulting in an echoey, reverberating sound. Dub techno, fusion of dub and techno. Dubtronica, fusion of dub and EDM. Dubstep, a style of UK garage that known for its sparse, heavy bass lines and dub-inspired reverberating drums. Dub style, fusion of dubstep and hardstyle. Dungeon synth. Dunun, family of West African drums. Dunedin sound, a style of indie pop based in Dunedin, New Zealand. Dutch jazz, jazz performed by Dutch musicians. Early music, any music made from the prehistoric era until the advent of Baroque music. East Coast hip-hop music originating from the American East Coast, largely New York City, considered the first form of hip-hop music. Easy listening, a popular music genre and radio format known for its slower tempo and the large prominence of strings. Electric blues, any style of blues played with electric instruments, most notably the electric guitar. Electro, a style of boogie which intentionally sound robotic and computer-like that later incorporated the rhythms of hip-hop music. Electro backbeat, any EDM which utilizes a 4/4 drum pattern. Electro grind, fusion of grindcore and industrial. Electro house. Electro-industrial, a style of post-industrial which used heavily produced and layered synths. Electro swing, fusion of EDM and swing jazz. Electroacoustic music. Electroclash, fusion of 1980s synthpop and 1990s techno. Electronic body music, EDM-informed style of post-industrial. Electronic dance music, EDM, any style of electronic music that is largely designed to be danced to. Electronic music, music that utilizes electronic instruments, such as the synthesizer, theremin, and computer. Electronic rock, refers to any style of rock music that contains elements of electronic music, usually its usage of the synthesizer, although the term is largely limited to certain styles. Electronica, a term used during the 1990s to refer to various forms of electronic dance music. Electronicore, fusion of electronic and post-hardcore/metalcore music. Electropop, a style of synthpop that leans more towards the electronic music side than the pop music side. Electropunk, fusion of electronic and punk music. Elevator music, comfortable and soothing music designed for and played in shopping malls, usually elevators therein, to create a sense of ambience and comfort. EMO, heavily emotional and pessimistic style of post-hardcore, as well as indie rock in its subsequent form. EMO hip-hop, a fusion of EMO and indie rock qualities with hip-hop. EMO pop, fusion of EMO and pop-punk. English folk music of England. Enka, a popular, modern adaptation of traditional Japanese music. Epic metal, a variety of heavy metal. ERX. Ermuu, work songs of the female bakers of the Garifuna people of West Africa. Ethereal wave, atmospheric style of dark wave. Ethiopian chant, liturgical chant practiced by the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church. Eurobeat, antecedent to Italo disco. Eurodance, European dance music and evolution of Eurodisco that adapted elements of house and high NRG. Eurodisco, disco originating from Europe. Euro house, European house music, usually a house-based style of Eurodance or Eurodisco. Europop, pop music originating from Europe. Eurotrance, European trance music, usually a fusion of Eurodance with uplifting trance and or hard trance. Exotica, a jazz-influenced style of easy listening that is meant to invoke the sounds of exotic locations, mostly Oceania, using non-Western instruments such as the Congo drum. Despite its nature, most exotica are only marginally inspired by the actual traditional music of these locations. Named after a Martin Denny's album. Experimental music, any music that breaches contemporary standards of music. Experimental pop, an experimental style of pop music which attempts to push elements of existing popular forms into new areas. Experimental rock, rock music that experiments with the basic elements of the genre. Expressionist music. Extempo, a lyrically improvised style of calypso music. Extreme metal, any aggressive, non-commercial style of heavy metal music. Fado, Portuguese folk music, often touching on the themes of melancholia and working class struggles. Falak music, Afghan, Tajik, and Pakistani religious folk music. Fandango, Spanish music made to accompany the upbeat dance of the same name. Farruca, a light style of flamenco. Festejo, a festive style of Afro-Peruvian music. Fife and drum blues, a fusion of hill country blues and martial music that is performed typically with one lead fife player and a troupe of drummers. Folk music, style of folk, sometimes expanding to other genres, with heavy science fiction or fantasy themes. Film score, any music written to act as a soundtrack to a motion picture. Filmi, Indian film scores. Filmi ghazal, fusion of filmi and ghazal poetry. Fingerstyle, the act of plucking guitar strings with the fingertips. Flamenco, popular style of Spanish folk dance music developed in Andalusia by Romani Spanish, or Gitanos, but latter expanding to the general Spanish populace. Florida breaks, a regional style of breakbeat developed in Florida that is centered on rhythms usually found in hip-hop music. Folk jazz, a style of folk music, as in contemporary folk music, that contains elements of jazz, particularly its emphasis on musical solos. Folk metal, a fusion of folk music and heavy metal. Folk music, 1. Any traditional music of an ethnic group that is usually performed by the working class using acoustic instruments, especially the acoustic guitar. 2. A synonymous term for contemporary folk music. Folk pop, fusion of folk and pop music. Folk punk, fusion of folk and punk rock. Folk rock, a fusion of folk music, as in contemporary folk music, and rock music, usually contains folk song structures and rock instrumentation. Folktronica, a fusion of folk music and electronic music. Forró, popular Brazilian folk dance music. Foxtrot. Freak beat, a frantic, raw style of beat and British invasion music. Freak folk, experimental style of folk, often folk rock. Free improvisation, 1. Completely uncontrolled musical improvisation, 2. An offshoot of free jazz. Free jazz, a style of jazz that takes the genre's usage of musical improvisation to the extreme, almost to the point of eliminating jazz's other elements. Related and originally synonymous with avant-garde jazz, free jazz is completely improvisational. Free techno, style of techno developed by anarchists. French house, house music originating from France that usually tries to emulate the genre that house music sprang out of, disco. Frevo, Brazilian dance styles associated with the Brazilian Carnivale. Fuji music, Nigerian folk music. Full-on, style of psychedelic trance known for its rolling bass lines and confrontational themes. Funana, Cape Verdean accordion-based dance music. Funeral doom, incredibly slow style of doom metal, made to mimic funeral music. Funk, a popular music genre that combines blues, via rhythm and blues, jazz, and soul music and is known for its emphasis towards melodies and harmonies in favor of the bass line. Funk metal, a style of funk rock and a form of alternative metal that fuses funk with heavy metal music. Funk rock, a fusion of funk and rock music, usually contains rock guitar riffs and funk bass lines. Funky house, fusion of funk and house music. Furniture music, a calming, lifestyle of background music. Future bass, this genre stems from trap, juke, and UK garage. It is focused on 808 drums and sawtooth synths. Future garage, a style of UK garage known for its off-kilter rhythmic production. Future soul. Futurepo, style of EDM known for its similarities to synthpop, EBM and uplifting trance, as well as its heavy sampling. A list of music styles from en.wikipedia.org/wiki/list_of_styles_of_music:*g-m. G-Funk, a style of gangsta rap that heavily uses P-Funk samples, largely recreated and not directly taken from P-Funk records, in their music. Ghana, upbeat Tamil dance song performed at celebrations. Gabber, a faster, more anarchistic, style of house music designed to counter the pretentious Dutch house scene of the 1980s. Gagaku, any Japanese classical music played for the imperial court. Ghana, counterpoint guitar music from Malta, with improvised lyrics. Gaita Zuliana, diverse style of Venezuelan folk. Galant, intentionally simplistic style of Western classical music designed to counter the increasingly complex Baroque music of the 18th century. Galaikan chant, plain song used during the Galaikan rite. Gamgan. Gamelan, Indonesian classical music. Gamelan Bebonangan, Balinese style of gamelan that utilizes a 7-tone scale and cymbals. Gamelan Digung, Sundanese style of gamelan that uses the pegog scale. Gamelan Gong Kabayar, Balinese style of gamelan known for its explosive changes in tempo. Gamelan Salendro, West Javan gamelan. Gamelan Salunding, Balinese style of gamelan. Gamelan Semar Pegulingan, Balinese style of gamelan. Gamaldans, wide variety of traditional Nordic dance music, and modernized versions created by Nordic Americans. Gandrung, traditional Indonesian dance music. Gangsta rap, a West Coast offshoot of hardcore hip-hop characterized by themes and lyrics that generally emphasize the gangsta lifestyle. Gargav. Gar, Tibetan chanting and dancing. Kabra, Gujarati music and dance. Garage house, heavily polished style of American house. Garage rock, a raw and energetic style of rock and roll, often practiced by high school bands in garages. Garage rock revival, a music revival of garage rock that occurred in the early 2000s. Gato, style of music folk dance popular in Argentina and Uruguay. Gavotte, traditional French dance music. Gegn. Gender wayang, Balinese style of gamelan. Geek rock, alternative rock with geeky themes. Gelino Samedi, a style of plain song developed by Joseph Gelino that uses regular meter unlike other plain songs. German folk, any folk music performed by Germans. Ghazal, Arabic, particularly Pakistani, angst-written poetry, often accompanied by music. Ghetto house, style of Chicago house known for its sexually explicit lyrics. Ghetto tech, fusion of Chicago house, Miami bass, electro, glitch, and techno. Girl group, any all-female pop or rock group. Glam metal, a style of heavy metal music popular in the 1980s characterized by its pop music hooks, hard rock-inspired guitar riffs, and glam rock-influenced fashion, pejoratively labeled as hair metal. Glam punk, fusion of glam and punk rock. Glam rock, a style of rock music which included heavy themes of gender bending and androgyny. Glitch, style of EDM based around samples of malfunctioning technology in order to create an intentionally harsh sound. Nawa music, Islamic African religious music. Go-gr. Go-go, style of funk known for its syncopated rhythms and call and response vocals. Goa trance, fusion of trance music and traditional Indian styles. Gong chime, any music performed with high-pitched pot gongs, usually Southeast Asian styles. Goombay, Bahamian drum music. Gore grind, style of grindcore known for its lyrical focus on gore and forensics. Goshu Ondo, traditional Japanese dance music from the Meiji era. Gospel music, a style of Christian music derived from spirituals that is known for its strong use of harmony and its usage of call and response. Gospel blues, a fusion of gospel music and blues. Gothic metal, fusion of gothic rock and heavy metal. Gothic rock, an offshoot of post-punk that is heavily inspired by gothic art. Gothabilly, a fusion of gothic rock and psychobilly. Gqom, style of house music from South Africa. Grebo, a short-lived British style of alternative rock from the 1990s. Gregorian chant, the central plain song used by the Roman Catholic Church that is said to be developed by Pope Gregory I, sung in monophonic a cappella. Grime, fusion of hip-hop and UK garage. Grindcore, fusion of death metal and hardcore punk. Groove metal, a style of heavy metal music that took elements of thrash, but played at mid-tempo, making a slower, groovier sound. Group sounds, Japanese pop from the 1961s, inspired heavily by British beat and American bubblegum pop. Grunge, a style of alternative rock that is heavily influenced by punk rock and heavy metal music and is known for its heavily distorted guitars and angst-ridden lyrics. Grupera, American rock-inspired Mexican rock. Gujiwa, Guarania, Paraguayan music style also popular in Brazil. Guajira, Cuban country music, performed in rural communities. Gumbe, Guinea-Bissau folk music. Gunche, Central American music played to accompany the Garifuna dance of the same name. Gunka, Japanese military music. Kuyu, modernized Chinese traditional music. Guoka, Guadeloupean drum music. Guoka moderne, modernized style of guoka. Gypsy jazz, Roma French style of jazz. Gypsy punk, Romani style of punk rock. Habanero, African American style based on Cuban contradanza. Halling, Norwegian folk music made to accompany the dance of the same name. Hambo, Swedish folk music made to accompany the dance of the same name. Hamburger Schule, style of alternative rock based in Hamburg, Germany. Happy hardcore, incredibly fast, upbeat, and optimistic style of hardcore techno. Hakaba, Sudanese a cappella music. Harawai, hardcore hip-hop, an aggressive and confrontational style of hip-hop music that originated from the East Coast. Hardcore punk, aggressive and confrontational style of punk music. Hardcore, a style of electronic dance music originated from techno known for distorted, industrial-esque beats. Hard bop, a style of bebop that contains gospel music harmonies, rhythm, and blues, as in the blues style, rhythms, and regular blues melodies. Hard house, fusion of hardstyle and house music. Hard rock, a loud, distorted style of rock music and an offshoot of blues rock. Related and originally used interchangeably with heavy metal music, hard rock usually maintains the bluesy elements of rock music. Hardstep, gritty, heavy style of drum and bass. Hardstyle, intense, heavy style of EDM known for its heavy kick drums and reversed bass lines. Hard trance, a heavy, reverberating style of trance music. Harsh noise wall. Hasapiko, Greek folk dance music, originating in Constantinople. Hat 2Ng, Hat Boi, Vietnamese opera. Hee Ho. Heartland rock, a style of roots rock known for its straightforward rock and roll sound and its concern with the American working class. Heavy hardcore, a mix of hardcore punk and heavy metal. Heavy metal music, a technically proficient, aggressive style of rock music and an offshoot of blues rock. Related and originally used interchangeably with hard rock, heavy metal music usually abandons the bluesy elements of rock music. High NRG, an electronic, up-tempo style of disco known for a reverberating, four-on-the-floor rhythm. Hill country blues, a style country blues developed in northern Mississippi which puts strong emphasis on rhythm and percussion, steady guitar riffs, few chord changes, unconventional song structures, and heavy emphasis on the groove. High life, Ghanaian style that married traditional African forms with Western pop. Hip life, fusion of high life and hip-hop. Hip-hop production, music production for hip-hop music. Hip-hop music, a popular music genre where lyrics are rapped rather than sung and are musically backed by a sampled loop provided by a DJ. Hip house, fusion of hip-hop and house music. Hindustani classical music, Northern Indian classical music. Hiragasi, style of music and dance performed by troops of relatives for day-long periods by the Merina people of Madagascar. Honky-tonk, a crisp, clean style of country music that is usually played in honky-tonks. Hokum, a comedic version of blues where lyrics is centered on making sexual innuendos. Hankyaku, religious music performed by Japanese Zen Buddhists. Hora, Romani folk music. Horolung, Improvisational Romani folk music. Hornpipe, music played to accompany the British naval dance of the same name. Horrorcore, hip-hop known for dark, horror-inspired lyrics. Horror punk, punk that is lyrically inspired by 1950s horror B-movies, often in an ironic way. House music, a relaxed, electronic dance music offshoot of disco characterized by repetitive 4/4 beats, rhythms provided by drum machines, offbeat hi-hat cymbals, and synthesized bass lines. Huhay. Huayno, Peruvian folk music. Hula, Hawaiian folk music made to accompany the dance of the same name. Humpa, Finnish jazz style. Hungyu, folk music performed by Garifuna women. Hyangak, Korean court music from the Three Kingdoms period. Hymn, any religious song. Hyphy, fast-paced style of hip-hop from the San Francisco Bay Area. Ikaro, music sung in healing ceremonies of the Shipibo-Conobo people of Peru. Igbo music, any music performed by the Igbo people of Nigeria. Ilbeant, style of ambient music inspired by dub music in its use of layering and hip-hop music in its use of sampling. Impressionist music, style of Western art music inspired by the visual arts movement of the same name. Incidental music, music played in the background of a film or play. Indian rock, rock music performed by Indians that usually incorporates elements of Indian music into it, related to raga rock. The term Indian rock is usually only applied to Indian rock musicians currently living in India. Indie-tronica, fusion of indie rock and EDM. Indie folk, a fusion of indie rock and folk music. Independent music, any music made outside of major record labels. Independent music that is specifically formed around an idea of remaining on the underground and a DIY ethic is referred to as indie music. Indie pop, a melodic, often angst-free and optimistic, style of pop music associated with the indie music scene, related with indie rock. Indie rock, an alternative rock style linked to the indie music scene. Indigenous music of North America, any music made by the indigenous peoples of North America. Indigenous rock, a style of music which mixes rock music with the instrumentation and singing styles of indigenous peoples. Indo-jazz, fusion of jazz and traditional Indian music. Industrial death metal, a style of industrial metal that fuses industrial music with death metal. Industrial hip-hop, fusion of industrial and hip-hop music. Industrial music, an experimental style of electronic music inspired by punk rock which draws harsh, transgressive, or provocative sounds and themes. Industrial musical, musical theater performed by the workers of a company to promote teamwork. Industrial metal, a fusion of industrial music and heavy metal music, usually has heavy metal vocals and guitar riffs and industrial instrumentation. Industrial rock, a style of alternative rock that fuses the harsh musical sounds of industrial music and with rock music instrumentation. Industrial thrash metal, a style of industrial metal that fuses industrial music with thrash metal. Instrumental, music that had no lyrics. Instrumental hip-hop, hip-hop music that features little to no rapping. Instrumental rock, rock music that features little to no singing. Intelligent dance music, IDM, more experimental and intellectual style of electronica so called to distinguish itself from the commercialist trends in rave music. Inuit music, any music performed by the Inuit people of Greenland and Canada. Irish traditional music, folk music of the Irish people, part of the Celtic music umbrella. Irish rebel music, Irish folk with an emphasis on Irish republicanism. Izakathamia, a cappella style of singing used by the Zulu people of South Africa. Islamic music. Italo dance, an optimistic style of Eurodance that developed in Italy. Italo disco, style of disco developed in Italy that led to the creation of modern EDM. Italo house, Italian house music that followed on from Italo disco. J-pop, pop music made by the Japanese performers. Japongan, music made to accompany the dance of the same name of Sundanesa people of Indonesia. Jam band, a type of band, usually a rock band, that plays long instrumental, often improvised, tracks called jams. Jam session, musical improvisation within the context of popular music, i.e. rock. Jamaican folk music originating from Jamaica. Jamren Samai, Cambodian pop music. Jangle, a sound characterized by undistorted, treble-heavy electric guitars, particularly 12 strings, played in a droning chordal style, by strumming or arpeggiating, giving it an uplifting, jangly sound. This sound is the main focus of an indie/pop rock music style known as jangle pop. Japanese rock music made by Japanese performers. Japanoise, noise music from Japan. Jarana Yucateca, traditional Yucatan dance music. Jaracho, Mexican dance and song style from Veracruz. Jawaiian, fusion of Hawaiian traditional music and reggae. Jazz, a form of music, usually considered a type of popular music, although some forms can be considered art music, that originated in the late 19th and early 20th century in the southern United States and is known for its heavy use of musical improvisation and brass instruments, especially the saxophone and trumpet. Jazzcore. Jazz improvisation, musical improvisation within the context of jazz. Jazz funk, fusion of jazz and funk music. Jazz fusion, can refer to any music that fuses something with jazz, although its usage is often limited to defining a fusion of jazz and rock music. Sometimes used interchangeably with jazz rock, jazz fusion is usually seen as being a jazz style that incorporates rock elements, particularly its backbeat and usage of the electric guitar, into its music. Jazz rap, a fusion of jazz and hip-hop music, usually contains jazz instrumentation, either played live or sampled from older jazz recordings, and hip-hop rhythms. Jazz rock, a fusion of jazz and rock music. Sometimes used interchangeably with jazz fusion, jazz rock is usually seen as being a rock style that incorporates jazz elements, particularly its usage of improvisation and brass instruments, into its music. Jegog, gamelan played with bamboo-based instruments. Jenka, Finnish folk dance music. Jesus music, style of CCM developed by the American hippie-based Jesus movement. Jiju. Jig, up-tempo Irish folk dance music. Jingping, Dominican folk dance music developed by slave during European colonialism. Jingle, short, catchy song used in advertising. Jit, Zimbabwean pop music. Jitterbug, any music that accompanied the dance of the same name. Jive, swing music used to accompany the African American ballroom dance of the same name. Jogged, Balinese dance music. Jogged bumbung, fusion of gamelan and jogged. Joik, style of Sami folk music. Joropo, Venezuelan waltz. Joda, Spanish folk dance music. Jug band, a band that plays a style of African American folk music using household objects such as jugs, spoons, and washboards. Juju music, Nigerian pop music. Jump blues, an up-tempo, style of boogie-woogie played with horns and swing music rhythms. Jump style, faster style of progressive house. Jungle music, a style of breakbeat hardcore known for fast tempo, breakbeats, samples, and for being the immediate predecessor of drum and bass. Junkanu, Bahamas folk dance music. Kabuki, style of Japanese musical theater known for its elaborate makeup and costuming. Kagok, Korean folk music. Kaiso, a style of Trinidadian music originating from Igbo and Congo slaves that later developed into calypso music. Kalame Shano, Greek folk music. Kinha Diskan, Breton folk music. Kani Kapila, Hawaiian music. Kansas City blues, blues performed by Kansas City inhabitants. Kantrum, fast-paced Khmer-Thai folk music. Karjirat, deep, growling style of Tuvan throat singing. Kasiko, Surinamese music that fuses African, European, and American styles. Kasher, fast-paced Ryukyuan festive folk music. Kawachi Ondo, Japanese folk music from the Osaka region. Kawi metal, fusion of heavy metal and J-pop. Karaoke, a form of entertainment, offered typically by bars and clubs, in which people take turns singing popular songs. Keikyaku, an early style of J-pop. KKH. Kekok, Balinese folk opera. Kakapi Suling, Sundanese folk music. Kurtok, Malay musical ensemble utilizing xylophones. Kaliji, Arab folk music. Keen, Malay woodwind music. Kyul, North Indian style of Hindustani classical music. Kumay, soft, droning style of Tuvan throat singing. Kikapi. Kievan chant, a liturgical chant common in churches that have their roots in the Moscow Patriarchate, part of the Abi Code. Kirtan, Indian drum music performed during Hindu bhakti rituals. Kiwi rock, rock music performed by New Zealanders. Kizomba, Angolan folk dance music. Klapa, Croatian a cappella music. Klasik, Afghan classical music. Klezmer, Jewish classical music. Kleiningen, Sundanese folk dance music. Kolomijka, tongue-in-cheek Hutsul folk dance music. Kamigaku, Japanese court music from the Heian period. Kpanlago, Ghanan folk dance music. Krkw. Krakowiak, fast-paced Polish folk dance music. Krautrock, a German style of experimental rock that largely replaced the blues influences of psychedelic rock with electronic music, considered a form of electronic rock. Kriti, Indian classical music. Kronkong, Indonesian folk music utilizing the ukul. Kujuro, Angolan folk music. Kolintang, ancient gong music of the Filipinos, Indonesians, Malays, Bruneian, and Timorese. Kundiman, Filipino love songs. Kvi, Icelandic folk music. Kwaito, South African house music. Kwasa Kwasa, Congolese folk dance music. Kwila, South African skiffle music. L. Leko, Greek folk dance music. Lambada, Brazilian dance music. Lando. Latin alternative, alternative rock informed by traditional Latin American styles. Latin freestyle, a style of electro characterized by its usage of the clave rhythm found in Latin music. Latin jazz, jazz that incorporates rhythms from Latin music. Latino hip-hop, hip-hop music performed by Latino Americans. Latin metal, a genre of heavy metal with Latin origins, influences, and instrumentation, such as Spanish vocals, Latin percussion, and rhythm such as salsa rhythm. Latin music, catch-all term for Spanish and Portuguese language popular music. Latin pop, used either as a catch-all term for any pop music from the Spanish-speaking world, or as a specific term for a fusion of pop music and Latin music. Latino punk, punk rock performed by Latino Americans. Latin rock, used either as a term for Spanish and Portuguese language rock music, or as a specific term for a style of rock music that incorporates elements found in Latin music. Latin soul, a fusion of Latin jazz and soul music. Lavani, style of traditional Indian music performed in Maharashtra. Lilo. Legenize, Hungarian and Romanian folk dance music performed by the inhabitants of Transylvania, now modern-day Cluj-Napoca. Letkajenka, Finnish folk dance music. Lamo, Tibetan folk opera. Lied, German poems spoken to music. Light metal music. Light music, soft, non-confrontational British orchestral music. Liquid funk, style of drum and bass with a heavy emphasis on melody. Lo-fi music, any music recorded at a quality lower than usual. Lullaby, style of Zuglo influenced by the French colonists in the Ivory Coast. Longcumio, musical style from the Tehuelche people in Argentina. Long song, Mongolian folk music in which each syllable is extended for a longer than average period of time. Louisiana blues, blues performed by inhabitants of the state of Louisiana. Lounge music, down-tempo music intended to give the listener a sense of being somewhere else, i.e. a jungle or outer space. Lovers rock, style of reggae fusion known for its romantic lyrics. Lowercase, an extreme, minimalist style of ambient music consisting of long periods of silence and occasional, very minute sounds. Lu. Tibetan a cappella music. Lubbock sound, fusion of rock and roll and country music from Lubbock, Texas. Luk Krung, more polished style of Luk Thung. Luk Thung, Thai folk music. Lullaby, soothing song sung to young children to lull them to sleep. Lundu, harmonious style of Afro-Brazilian music. M-Bass, style of musical thought and composition developed by Steve Coleman. Manchester, a music scene developed in Manchester that combined alternative rock with acid house. The music itself is often referred to as baggy. Madrigal, style of classical singing popular in the Renaissance and Baroque eras. Mafioso rap, an East Coast style of gangsta rap that focuses on organized crime, i.e. the mafia, rather than street gang activities. Mahori, style of Thai and Khmer classical music. Makassa, Cameroonian pop. Malhun, Arab folk poetry. Maloya, style of folk developed by the slaves on the French territory of Reunion. Malambo, Argentine and Uruguayan style of folk music dance. Mambo, a Cuban style of swing music. Manmap. Manaski, Kyrgyz song recital of the Epic of Manas. Mandopop, style of C-pop sung in the Mandarin language. Manele, Romani folk music. Mangui Bit, a Brazilian electronic music genre played in a fast-paced, alternative rock-informed style. Manila Sound, fusion of Western rock music and traditional Filipino folk music. Mapoka, traditional folk dance music of the Izi, Aladayan and Avicem people of the Ivory Coast. Marmaz. Marabi, South African style informed by blues and jazz. Maracatu, Brazilian folk dance music. March. Mariachi, fusion of Mexican folk music and pop music. Marabenta, Mozambican folk dance music informed by Portuguese styles. Martial industrial, style of neo-folk informed by military marches and militaristic themes. Martial music, music intended for use in military settings. Maskanda, South African folk music. Marinera, romantic Peruvian folk dance music. Martinets, a cappella flamenco music. Mashup, blend of two or more pre-recorded songs. Mass, Christian hymns sung by large vocal groups. Matamurt, Garifuna folk dance music. Mathcore, fusion of metalcore and math rock. Math rock, a rhythmically complex and experimental style of indie rock. Mashish, Brazilian folk dance music. Mazurka, Polish folk dance music. Mbimi. Mbalax, Senegalese folk dance music that combines traditional sabar drumming techniques with jazz, soul, rock, and Latin music. Mbekanga, Zulu jazz style that was one of the first South African genres to achieve intertribal recognition. Mbube, South African a cappella music. Meditation music, any music created to aid meditation procedures. Medieval folk rock, style of folk rock that incorporated elements of earlier folk traditions, such as medieval, Renaissance, and Baroque music, despite what the name may suggest. Medieval metal, fusion of folk metal and medieval folk rock. Medieval music, a period of Western art music ranging from the 6th to 15th centuries. Mejaranra, Panaman guitar music. Malhun, North African style of classical music that borrows from Andalusian traditions. Melam, Indian drumming style. Melisma, a singing technique where a single syllable of text is sung through several different notes in succession. Melodic hardcore, style of hardcore punk known for its slower, melodic guitars, juxtaposed with shouted vocals. Melodic metalcore, fusion of melodic hardcore and metalcore. Melodic music, any music that utilizes melody, the combination of notes so that they are perceived as a single string of music. Memphis blues, a style of blues from Memphis. Memphis soul, Southern soul from Memphis known for its sultry sound and melodic unison horn lines. Mento, a style of Jamaican folk music that later developed into ska, heavily conflated with calypso music. Merengue music, Dominican folk dance music. Merengue típico, style of modern merengue that attempts to sound similar to 19th century merengue. Meringue, Haitian guitar music. Metalcore, fusion of extreme metal and hardcore punk, often sung melodically. Mexican rock music performed by Mexicans. Mekana, Azerbaijani spoken word music. Mezwed, Tunisian folk music. Miamil, Miami bass, rave-inspired style of hip-hop. Micro house, minimalist, stripped-down style of house music. Microsound, Middle Eastern music, music originating from the Middle East. Midwest hip-hop. Mini jazz, rock-inspired meringue music. Minuet, French folk dance music. Milonga, Argentine and Uruguayan folk dance music. Minwai, Japanese folk music. Minimal music, a heavily experimental form of music known for its simplicity and repetitiveness. Usually refers to a style of postmodern classical music, although the term have been applied to some genres of popular music, particularly electronica. Minimal techno, fusion of techno and minimal music. Minstrel, American folk music which parodied African American styles. Minneapolis sound, a style of funk rock performed and produced by Prince and his associates that contains many other musical elements, particularly new wave music. Modal jazz, jazz that uses musical modes rather than tonal scales and thinking as a framework. Modern Brazilian folk music. Modern rock, any rock music, usually alternative rock, made during or after the 1990s. Mornada, folk music and dance style from the Bolivian Andes. Morlam, Laotian and Thai folk music. Morlam sing, fast-paced, sexual, and modernized style of Morlam. Moombahton, fusion of electro house and reggaeton. Moombahcore, Moombahton incorporating dubstep influences and elements of Dutch house. Motown sound, a style of soul music produced by and named after the famous record label that took elements of pop music, particularly its clean production and usage of catchy hooks, in order to gain mass crossover appeal. Montuno, loose term for Cuban music and its derivatives. Morna, Cape Verdean folk music. Mozambique. Mozarabic chant, plain song used during the Mozarabic rite. Mugam, Azerbaijan classical music. Mumble rap, a modern style of hip-hop characterized by simplistic and often unintelligible lyrics. Murga, Uruguayan, Argentinian and Spaniard theatrical music performed during Carnival. Musette, French folk dance music. Mushroom jazz, eclectic genre that draws from down-tempo, hip-hop, and world styles. Music drama, an artwork that covers all forms of art. Music hall, English popular music of the 19th century. Música criolla, Peruvian music informed by African, European, and Andean styles. Música llanero, Venezuelan and Colombian folk music. Música popular brasileira, loose term for Brazilian pop music. Musical improvisation, music made up on the spot. Musique concrète, heavily experimental orchestral music known for its use of electronic instruments. Muwashsha, Arabic musical poetry. A list of music styles from en.wikipedia.org/list_of_styles_of_music:*n-music:*n. Nagata, Japanese music that accompanies kabuki theater. Nakaisai, Japanese and Taiwanese folk music. Nangma, Tibetan EDM. Nangwen music, Chinese classical music that is heavily influenced by Western styles. Narcocorrido, Mexican polka-influenced folk music with lyrics focusing on illegal activity. Nardcore, hardcore and skate punk style based in Oxnard, California. Narodna Muzika, Bosnian, Bulgarian, Macedonian, and Serbian folk music. Nasht, Islamic vocal music, usually sung a cappella, or accompanied by a daf. Nashville Sound, a slick, pop-informed radio-friendly style of American country music that began in Nashville, Tennessee. National Socialist black metal espousing National Socialism. Nazi punk. Nederpop, Dutch pop music. Neoclassical, orchestral music of the early 20th century. Neoclassical dark wave, fusion of neoclassical and dark wave music. Neoclassical metal, fusion of neoclassical and heavy metal music. Neoclassical New Age, fusion of neoclassical and New Age music. Neokaima, style of classical Greek music from the 1960s with French influences. Neofolk, fusion of folk rock and post-industrial music. Neo-medieval music, music that attempts to imitate medieval and earlier periods of classical music. Neo-progressive rock, highly theatrical, emotional, and clean style of progressive rock. Neo-psychedelia, a loose term for music, usually either alternative rock or new wave music, inspired by earlier psychedelic music. Neo-soul, a modern style of soul music that differs from standard contemporary R&B by having a less conventional sound that focuses on more soulful and emotive vocals and lyrics. Originally referred to as alternative R&B, neo-soul, which originated in the 1990s, is firmly considered to be a soul genre first and foremost. Neo-traditional country, alternative country music that attempts to imitate pre-Nashville traditional country. Nerdcore, hip-hop with lyrics concerning typically nerdy subjects. Neue Deutsche Hart, a German fusion style of Neue Deutsche Welle and industrial music that mainly takes elements of alternative and groove metal. Neue Deutsche Welle, new wave music performed by Germans. Neue Deutsche Tanzkunst, German dark wave and gothic rock. Neurofunk, more advanced style of tech-step. New Age music, a style of ambient music intended for use during meditation, strongly linked to the New Age movement. New Beat, Belgian down-tempo and acid house. New Jack Swing, or swing beat, slickly produced fusion of soul, pop, dance, and hip-hop music. New Mexico music, a blend of Pueblo and Hispano folk music with Mexican, Latin, and American folk/pop genres. New Orleans blues, a Dixieland-influenced style of blues developed in New Orleans. New Orleans rhythm and blues originating from New Orleans that heavily uses the piano and horns. New prog, more ambitious and alternative rock-inspired style of progressive rock. New rave, a fusion of indie rock and dance punk. New school hip-hop music made after the mid-80s. New Taiwanese song, Taiwanese pop music. New wave music, a style of rock music that developed alongside punk rock and is known for heavy usage of electronic instruments and distinctive music videos. New wave of new wave, an alternative rock-led revival of new wave music that occurred in 1990s Britain. New Weird America, term for the, often psychedelic-informed, indie folk music of the 2000s. Ni New Nintendo Core, fusion of chiptune and metalcore. Nigiotica, Greek folk music from the Aegean Islands. No Wave, an avant-garde style of punk rock that rejected punk's adherence to basic rock elements, which usually resulted in most no-wave music having an abrasive atonal sounds and repetitive, driving rhythms. Despite its name being a play on words off of new wave music, no wave has little to do with that genre. No, long, highly dramatic Japanese opera. Noise music, trend in orchestral, rock, and electronic music where harsh, non-melodic, and often random sounds are used alongside or in place of conventional sounds. Noise pop, a style of alternative rock in which noises and feedback are used, but made into a melodic, often relaxing sound usually found in pop music. Noise rock, loud, atonal, dissonant, and unconventional rock music that was developed out of punk rock. Nordic folk music, folk music of the Nordic people. Nortec, Mexican EDM. Norteño, a style of Mexican folk music developed in northern Mexico characterized by its polka tempo and its socially relevant lyrics. Northern soul, soul music made by Northern English. New disco, a French house-led revival of disco that occurred in the 21st century. New funk. New gaze, a new style of shoegazing. New jazz, modern jazz music that borrows from funk and EDM. New metal, a style of alternative metal that borrows elements from other genres, especially hip-hop music, and is known for its usage of down-tuned 7-string guitars, angst-filled lyrics that are delivered via screaming and/or rapping, and occasionally featuring a DJ to provide instrumentation such as sampling and turntable scratching. New school breaks, a more abstract and technical style of breakbeat. Nueva canción. Nuevo tango. O. Obscuro. A B-code, a collection of liturgical chants used by the Russian Orthodox Church, tends to be polyphonic. Oi, 1980s style of British punk rock. Old school hip-hop, a term for hip-hop music recorded before approximately 1984, this style tended to have simpler rapping techniques with lyrics that generally focuses on party-related subject matter, resulting in songs that are much longer than those created by later hip-hop artists. Old Roman chant, plain song used during the Roman Rite. Old-time music, archaic term for many different styles that were an outgrowth of Appalachian folk music and fed into country music. Oldies, popular music from the 1950s and 1960s. Olankho, Yakut epic songs. Old-time radio, old-time radio shows from the 1930s, 1960s. Ondo. Opera, theatrical performances in which all or most dialogue is sung with musical accompaniment. Operatic pop, style of pop music that is performed in a classical operatic style, also referred to as popera. Oratorio, similar to opera but without scenery, costumes, or acting. Orchestral pop, pop music performed or backed by an orchestra, considered a style of easy listening. Organ trio, a style of jazz from the 1960s that blended blues and jazz, and later soul jazz, and which was based around the sound of the Hammond organ. Organic ambient music, often acoustic ambient music which uses instruments and styles borrowed from world music. Organum, Middle Ages polyphonic music. Oriental metal, a style of folk metal that incorporates elements of traditional Middle Eastern music. Ottava rima, Italian rhyming stanzas. Ottoman military band, the oldest variety of military marching band in the world. Outlaw country, a late 1960s and 70s style of country music with a hard-edged rock sound and rebellious contemporary folk lyrics. Outsider music, generic term for music performed by outsiders. Operetta. P-Funk, funk created and performed by George Clinton and his band's Parliament, which usually played regular funk, and funkadelic, which usually played a mix of psychedelic funk and funk rock. Pachanga, a mixture of son montuno and merengue. Pagan metal. Pagan rock, rock music, usually alternative rock, with pagan themes. Pagode, Brazilian style of music which originated in the Rio de Janeiro region. Paisley Underground, 1980s style of alternative rock that drew heavily on psychedelic music and jangle pop. Palm wine music, fusion of numerous West African, Latin American, and European genres, popular throughout coastal West Africa in the 20th century. Panambi, tembang sunda that uses metered poetry. Punchai Baha, Nepalese wedding music. Punchavadiam, temple music from Kerala, India. Panchori, Korean folk music played by a singer and a drummer. Paraguayan polka. Parnda music, Garifuna style of music. Paranda, Afro-Venezuelan style of music. Parody music, humorous renditions of existing songs or styles. Pambich, merengue estilo Yankee. Parnda, Garifuna music of Belize. Parang, Trinidadian Christmas carols. Partido Alto. Pasacalle. Pasillo, Paso Doble, Paeta, Peace Punk, Pelimani music, Finnish folk dance music, Persian traditional music, Peruvian cumbia, also known as chicha music, Patanera, peyote song, a mixture of gospel and traditional Native American music, Philadelphia soul, soft 1970s soul that came out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Pi-PL, pibroch, a type of music involving the Scottish bagpipes, typically using complex variations of a theme, like for service or ceremonies. Piedmont blues, a style of blues that originated on the east coast of the United States. Characterized by syncopated finger-picked guitar playing and ragtime-based rhythms. Pimba, origin, Portugal. Pinoy pop, Filipino. Pinoy rock, rock and roll sung in Tagalog from the Philippines. Pinpiat orchestra. Pifat, ancient style of Thai classical ensemble. Pirate metal, mix of heavy metal and pirate music. Pietime. Plain song, chants used in the liturgies of the Western Church. Plena. Plang Phua Shiwit, Thai protest rock. Plang Thai Sakern, a Thai interpretation of Western classical music. Po-pp. Political hip-hop music with political, usually left-wing and / or black nationalist, themed lyrics, the direct successor to conscious hip-hop. Polka, Czech-originated genre of folk dance music popular in many European countries. Polo, Venezuelan folk music. Polonaise. Pals, Danish fiddle and accordion dance music. Polska. Ponglang. Pop folk. Pop music, a genre of popular music that is specifically designed to have wide appeal, usually by having catchy hooks, simple beats and melodies, clean production and vocals, and lyrics that usually center on love and romantic relationships, frequently the adolescence versions of these topics. Pop punk, a style of punk rock that contains elements of pop music, particularly its catchy hooks, simple melodies, and clean production. Pop punk also shares pop's adolescence themes, although said themes are mostly written from a comedic, punk point of view and usually delves into topics frequently avoided in pop, such as teenage drunkenness and drug usage. Pop rap. Pop rock, a fusion of rock music and pop music, usually contains pop song structures and rock instrumentation. Pop Sunda, Sundanese mixture of gamelandigung and pop music structures. Popular music, any music with wide appeal that is typically distributed to large audiences through the music industry. Pornocore. Porno grind, grindcore that focuses on pornographic topics. Poro, Colombian big band music. Post-bop, jazz made after 1950s following the decline of bebop that has elements of hard bop, modal jazz, avant-garde jazz, and free jazz. Post-Britpop, British alternative rock made after 1997 following the decline of Britpop. Post-dubstep. Post-disco, a style of dance music that contains clear elements of disco but was made after Disco Demolition Night. Post-grunge, a grunge-inspired style that strips away that genre's mainstream unfriendly elements, i.e. its introspective lyrics and abrasive tone, and replaces them with a cleaner production and lyrics about relationships. Post-hardcore, a hardcore punk-inspired style that explores approaches beyond the genre's conventions. Post-industrial, umbrella term for genres inspired by and that features industrial music elements. Post-metal, a heavy metal style that explores approaches beyond the genre's conventions. Post-minimalism. Postmodern music, can refer to any music made in the postmodern era, although its usage is often limited to music, usually classical music, although the term has been applied to some popular musicians, inspired by postmodernism. Post-punk, a punk-inspired style that explores approaches beyond the genre's conventions. Post-punk revival, an alternative rock-led revival of post-punk that occurred between late 1990s to early 2000s, considered a style of electronic rock. Post-rock, a style of experimental rock that strips away every characteristic that defines the sound of rock music, considered a form of electronic rock. Post-Romanticism. Powada, Marathi folk. Power electronics. Power metal, a style of heavy metal with melodic vocals, symphonic context, and with fantastic or mythical lyrics. Power noise, or rhythmic noise. Power pop, a style of pop rock that combines the melodic hooks of the Beatles with the energetic performance of The Who. Power trio. Power violence. Pow wow, Native American dance music. Punkchuk, Korean pop music developed during the Japanese occupation. PRPU. Praise song. Program symphony. Progressive electronic music. Progressive folk music. Progressive house. Progressive metal, a style of heavy metal and progressive rock. Progressive music, music that attempts to expand existing stylistic boundaries associated with specific genres of music. Progressive pop, pop music that attempts to break with the genre's standard formula. Progressive rock, a style of rock music and an offshoot of psychedelic rock that abandons standard rock traditions in favor of instrumentation and compositional techniques more frequently associated with jazz, folk music, and/or classical music. Progressive trance. Prostopinity, a style of monodic church chant used by churches tied to the Rusin people. Proto-punk, any style of garage rock that seems to contain elements of punk rock but was made before its actual existence. Psychedelic music, music that attempts to replicate the effects of and enhance the mind-altering experiences of hallucinogenic drugs, characterized by its disjunctive song structures, surreal lyrics, and its usage of Indian instruments, especially the sitar and tabla, and elaborate studio effects. Psychedelic folk, a psychedelic style of folk music, as in contemporary folk music, that adds folk instrumentation into psychedelic music, one of the three original forms of psychedelic music. Psychedelic funk, a style of funk that incorporates the psychedelic elements of psychedelic rock, particularly its disjunctive song structures and surreal lyrics. Psychedelic pop, a psychedelic style of pop music that replaces the disjunctive song structures and surreal lyrics found in psychedelic music with standard pop song structures and lyrics, one of the three original forms of psychedelic music. Psychedelic rock, a psychedelic style of rock music that adds electrical guitar distortion and feedback into psychedelic music, one of the three original forms of psychedelic music. Psychedelic soul, a style of soul music that incorporates the psychedelic elements of psychedelic rock, particularly its usage of electrical guitar distortion and feedback and elaborate studio effects. Unlike other forms of psychedelic music, psychedelic soul lyrics tend to be more political than surreal. Psychedelic trance, psytrance. Psychobilly. Pub rock, refers to two separate back-to-basics styles of rock music that was played in pubs during the 1970s, one originating from Australia that was largely a hard rock style, and the other originating from the United Kingdom whose emphasis on small venues, simple, fairly inexpensive recordings and indie record labels helped create the British punk rock scene. Pung mol, a Korean folk music tradition that includes drumming, dancing, and singing. Punk blues, a style of blues rock that fuses blues with punk rock. Punk cabaret, a fusion of musical theater and cabaret-style music with the aggressive, raw nature of punk rock. Punk jazz, a style of punk rock that incorporates elements of free jazz, particularly its instrumentation and the heavy emphasis of jazz improvisation. Punk rock, a style of rock music known for its raw and distorted sound, usually fast and short songs, and frank and confrontational lyrics. Punta. Punta rock, 1970s Belizean music. Puya, traditional music style from Colombia. Q. Chuan Ho, Vietnamese vocal music which originated in the Red River Delta. Kasida, epic religious poetry accompanied by percussion and chanting. Kasida modern, Kasida updated for mainstream audiences. Kawali, Sufi religious music updated for mainstream audiences, was originated in India. Quadrille. Queercore. Quiet storm. R. Raga rock, a fusion of rock music and Indian music, related to Indian rock. The term is usually only applied to Western rock musicians, including those of Indian descent, incorporating Indian elements, such as its usage of drone and the sitar, into their sound. Raga. Ragamuffin, raga. Raga jungle. Ragtime, a style of African American music known for its syncopated or ragged rhythm that later developed into jazz. Rai, Algerian folk music now developed into a popular style. Rayakor. Ryan-B. Rake and Scrape, Bahamian instrumental music. Rampbach. Ramvong. Ranchera, pop mariachi from 1950s film soundtracks. Rapping, a musical form of vocal delivery where the lyrics are spoken, usually in time with the music, rather than sung. Rapso, a poetic rap form of Trinbaganian music, the next evolutionary step of calypso and soca. Rap metal, a style of rap rock and alternative metal which combines hip-hop music, largely its usage of rapping, with heavy metal music. Rap rock, a fusion of hip-hop music and rock music, usually contains rock instrumentation and hip-hop vocals and beats. Rara. Rare groove, Gujarati music and dance. Razia. Ravana Hatha, Ravana music. Rave music, any music, usually electronic dance music, that is usually played in raves. Rebetiko. Red dirt, music. Real. Reggae, a Jamaican music genre that is known for its offbeat rhythm, particularly the one-drop rhythm and ska stroke, and Rastafarian-influenced lyrics. Reggae fusion. Reggae high life. Reggaeton, a fusion genre developed in Puerto Rico that combines reggae and hip-hop music. Rikalalu, Finnish rhyming sleigh songs. Religious music, music performed or composed for religious use or through religious influence. Rembetiko. Renaissance music. Retro. Requiem music. Rhapsody. Rumba. Rhyming spiritual, Bahamian hymns. Rhythm and blues, 1. A synonymous term for African American popular music, 2. An offshoot of jump blues characterized by its heavy, insistent beat that was an immediate predecessor of rock and roll. Rísarkar. Rimmer, Icelandic heroic epic songs. Ring Bang, a Caribbean fusion of music genres, a philosophy and an aesthetic propounded by Eddie Grant in 1994. Riot Grrrl, a hardcore punk movement led by women that is heavily associated with third-wave feminism. Rock music, a broad offshoot of rock and roll that is typically characterized by a basic backbeat, 4/4 riffs, and is musically centered on the, usually electric, guitar, bass guitar, drums, and vocals, although there are numerous styles within rock where this characterization does not apply. Rock opera, a collection of rock music songs with lyrics that relate to a common story. Rock and roll, a popular music genre that combines blues, via rhythm and blues, and country music and is known for strong backbeat, its complete dominance within 1950s youth culture, and being the predecessor of rock music. Rock en Español. Rockabilly, a style of rock and roll that tends to have a stronger country influence than usual. Rocksteady. Rococo. Rikyaku. Romani music. Romantic period in music. Ronggeng, a folk music from Malacca, Malaysia. Roots reggae. Roots rock, rock music that looks back to rock's origins in folk music, blues, and country music, usually by combining all three with modern rock. Roots rock reggae. Rumba. A list of music styles from en.wikipedia.org/list_of_styles_of_music:*s. Sabar, drumming style found in Senegal. Sidcore, a style of alternative rock characterized by bleak lyrics that are delivered by either upbeat or downbeat melodies. Salsa dura, a style of salsa music that places more emphasis on the instrumental part of the music. Salsa music, a fusion of multiple Cuban and Puerto Rican-derived popular music genres from immigrants in New York City. Salsa romantica, a soft, romantic form of salsa music. Saltarello. Samba, a form of Brazilian popular music and dance characterized by its 2/4 time signature varied with the conscious use of a sung chorus to a batucada rhythm. Considered a symbol of Brazil and the Brazilian Carnival. Samba canco, traditional samba in slow tempo and with romantic lyrics. Influenced by bolero. Samba reggae, a genre of samba with a choppy, reggae-like rhythm. Samba rock, a style of samba that contains rock music instrumentation, funk bass lines, and soul music vocals. Sambai. Sambas. Sampledelia, any music which heavily utilize sampling, i.e. electronic music and / or hip-hop music. Sampling, reusing a portion of a sound recording in another recording, considered a foundation of hip-hop music. Sanjo, Korean instrumental folk music. SA with circumflex RB, Romanian folk dance style. Sardana, traditional music of Catalonia. Sato Kagura. Sot, urban music from Kuwait and Bahrain. Saya, Bolivian music derived from African rhythms. SC. Schlager music. Schottisch. Scottish Baroque music. Scottish folk music of the Scottish people, part of the Celtic music umbrella. Scrumpy and Western, folk music from West Country of England. Screamo, an aggressive style of emo which employs screamed vocals. Scuff. Sea shanty, English folk music of the sea. Sean Nos song, Sean Nos singing style of Ireland. Sea punk. Second Viennese school. Sega music. Segay. Sis, type of Puerto Rican dance music. Semba, traditional type of music from Angola. Sephardic music. Serialism. Sertanejo music, folk music from the east of Brazil. Set dance. Sevdalinka, Bosnian urban popular music. Sevelina. Shavda. Shalako, Armenian folk dance. Shanji, Taiwanese Hakka mountain songs. Shango. Shape note. Shibuyake. Shidakwa, Hong Kong-based form of traditional music updated for pop audiences and sung in Mandarin. Shima Yuta, folk songs from the Amami Islands, Japan. Shock rock. Shoegazing, a style of neo-psychedelia characterized by an ethereal mixture of obscured vocals, guitar distortion and effects, feedback, and overwhelming volume. Shoka, Japanese songs written during the Meiji Restoration to bring Western music to Japanese schools. Shomayo, Japanese Buddhist chanting. Shota, Albanian folk dance. Show tune. Si. Sika. Sigirias. Silat, Malaysian mixture of music, dance, and martial arts. Sinewai, Korean religious music meant for dancing, it is improvised and reminiscent of jazz. Singer-songwriter. Ska, a Jamaican music genre that combined elements of Caribbean mento and calypso music with American jazz and rhythm and blues, characterized by a walking bass line accented with rhythms on the offbeat. Ska punk, fusion of punk rock and ska. Skald. Skate punk, punk rock subgenre that features elements of hardcore punk, melodic hardcore and pop punk. Popular amongst skaters, surfers, or skiers. Squee. Skiffle. Skyladeco pop folk music style of Greece. Skull step. Slack key guitar, kiwalu, Hawaiian form invented by retuning open strings on a guitar. Slang polska. Slide music. Slowcore, a fusion of indie rock and sadcore. As its name applies, slowcore tends to deliver the bleak lyrics of sadcore with downbeat melodies and slow tempo. Sludge metal, a subgenre of heavy metal with slow-tuned tempos, abrasive distortion, and harsh vocals. Basically a fusion of doom metal and hardcore punk. Smooth jazz. Smooth soul, a style of soul music characterized by melodic hooks, funk influence, specifically its beat, and smooth production. Soca music. Soft rock, an offshoot of pop rock that relies on simple, melodic songs with big, lush productions. Son bata rock music. Son cubano. Son montuno, Cuban folk music. Sonata. Songo music, a mixture of Changi and Son montuno. Songo salsa, a mixture of songo, hip-hop, and salsa. Sophisti-pop, British pop music made in the 1980s that incorporated elements of jazz and soul music, specifically their usage of the brass section, known for its extensive use of the synthesizer. Soukous. Soul blues, a style of electric blues that incorporates elements of soul music, particularly its tense and raw vocals. Soul jazz. Soul music, a popular African American music genre that combines gospel music and rhythm and blues, as in the blues style, known for its tense and raw vocals which are backed by a brass section. Sound poetry. Soundtrack. Southern gospel. Southern Gothic music, a style of alternative country lyrically inspired by the Southern Gothic literary genre. Southern harmony. Southern hip-hop music originating from the American South, especially Atlanta, New Orleans, Houston, Memphis, and Miami. The most popular form of hip-hop as of late. Southern metal. Southern rock, roots rock originating from the American South that usually contains long jam sessions centered on the boogie rhythm. Southern soul music originating from the American South that usually has a stronger gospel influence and overall deeper sound than other soul. Space age pop, a subgenre of pop music and easy listening inspired by and associated with the space age of the 1950s and 1960s. Space disco. Space music, a subgenre of new age music meant to evoke a feeling of contemplative spaciousness. Space rock, an offshoot of psychedelic rock characterized by loose and lengthy song structures centered on instrumental textures that typically produce a hypnotic, otherworldly sound. Spectralism. Speedcore. Speed garage. Speed metal. Spirituals, a genre of African American Christian music linked with the hardships of slavery, serves the basics of both blues and gospel music. Spoken word, any audio that features vocals that is neither singing or rapping. Spoche, Barbadian folk music. Spreek G sang. Square dance. St. Louis blues, a form of blues developed in St. Louis that tends to be more piano-based than others. Steel band. Stoner metal. Stoner rock. Straight edge music. Strathspey. Stride. String music, Thai pop music. String quartet. Sufi music. Sweet. Sunshine pop, a style of pop music developed in California that combined the nostalgic moods of easy listening with an appreciation for the beauty of the world. Suomi rock. Super Eurobeat. Surf music. Swamp blues, a style of blues developed in Baton Rouge that is heavily influenced by Zydeco and Cajun music. Swamp pop, a style of pop music developed by Cajun teenagers in the 1950s that combines Cajun music with rock and roll and rhythm and blues, specifically New Orleans rhythm and blues. Swamp rock, a style of swamp pop that drew more on rock music than rhythm and blues. Swing, 1. A general feel of the rhythm within jazz musicians, 2. A specific rhythm pattern that involves alternately lengthening and shortening the pulse divisions in a rhythm. Swing music, a danceable form of jazz that places heavy emphasis on both definitions of swing, which is what the form is named after. Sygyt, type of kumyi, tuva throat singing, likened to the sound of whistling. Symphonic black metal. Symphonic metal. Symphonic poem. Symphonic rock. Symphony. Synth pop, a style of new wave music and a form of electronic music that centers on the synthesizer as the dominant musical instrument. Originally an intentionally cold-sounding genre, later synth pop artists incorporated elements of pop music into it, resulting in a more upbeat sound. Synth punk, a style of punk rock that uses synthesizers rather than guitars. Sometimes considered a form of electronic rock. Synthwave. Syrian chant, chant used in Syriac Christianity. Tarab. Tai Tu, Vietnamese chamber music. Taiwanese opera. Taiwanese pop, early Taiwanese pop music influenced by enka and popular with older listeners. Tala, a rhythmic pattern in Indian classical music. Talimpung, a distinct Minangkabau gamelan music. Talking blues. Tamborito, folk music style from Panama. Tumbu, music genre and dance form, found on Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. Tamba Itsa. Tamil Christian Kirthana, Christian devotional lyrics in Tamil. Tanchas, Hungarian dance music. Tango music, Argentine and Uruguayan popular music that spread internationally in the 1920s. Tanguk, a form of Korean court music that includes elements of Chinese music. Tapa. Takwakari. Tarana, form of vocal music from northern India using highly rhythmic nonsense syllables. Tarantella. Taranto. Tech house. Tech trance. Technical death metal. Technical metal. Techno, a style of electronic dance music that emerged from Detroit, Michigan, known for its repetitive rhythm. Technoid. Tech step. Tectonic. Technobrega. Teen pop, a subgenre of pop music targeted towards preteen and teenage listeners. Tejano music or Tex-Mex, an American form of norteño originating among the Mexican-American populations of central and southern Texas, considered a part of American folk music. Third stream, jazz and classical music fusion style. Tembang Sunda, Sundanesa sung free verse poetry. Texas blues, a form of blues developed in Texas that originally had swing influences, but later became a form of blues rock. Theater music, music made for performance in theaters. Theme music. Thilana, form of vocal music from South India using highly rhythmic nonsense syllables. Third wave ska. 32-bar form. Thrashcore. Thrash metal, a style of extreme metal known for its fast tempos, screaming vocals, extended guitar solos and aggressive lyrics. Thumri, a type of popular Hindustani vocal music. Tibetan pop, pop music heavily influenced by Chinese forms, emerging in the 1980s. Shintos, style of organ music from the 15th century in Spain. Timbala, form of folk music in Mozambique. Tin Pan Alley, a name given to the collection of New York City music publishers and songwriters who dominated the popular music of the United States in the late 19th century and early 20th century, one of the major sources for traditional pop. Tinku, traditional music and dance from Potosi, Bolivia. Toshe, Tibetan dance music. Togaku. Tondero, folk music style from Peru. Tiong guitar, acoustic guitar pop music of Korea. Traditional bluegrass, modern bluegrass music that emphasizes its original elements. Traditional Nordic dance music, upbeat style of Nordic folk. Traditional pop, pop music that predates the existence of rock and roll, usually has a swing influence due to that genre's prominence at that time. Later classified as a form of easy listening. Trololero, Genoese urban songs. Trance music, a style of electronic dance music characterized by a tempo lying between 110 and 150 BPM, repeating melodic phrases, and a musical form that distinctly builds tension and elements throughout a track, often culminating in 1 to 2 peaks or drops. Trap music, EDM. Trap music, hip-hop. Tribal. Tribal house. Trikitiza, Basque accordion music. Trip-hop, a hip-hop influenced genre of electronic music that is known for its melancholy sound and a bass-heavy drumbeat. Sometimes treated as a synonym for down-tempo, it differs from that genre by having a more earthy sound. Tropicalia. Tropical music, Latin music originating from the Caribbean. Tropical house, a mix of reggae and house sounds, originated in the late 2000s. Tripop, truck driving country. Tumba, turbo folk, aggressive form of modernized Serbian music. Turkish music. Turntablism, Tuvan throat singing. Twee pop, 12-bar blues, a distinctive form predominantly based on the I4V chords of a key. Twist, also a dance style, early 1960s. Two-tone, usually spelled two-tone, a style of ska that incorporates elements of punk rock and new wave music, particularly their high-paced tempo, produced by and named after the record label of the same name. Most two-tone music tends to have lyrics that promotes racial harmony. UK bass, club music that emerged in the United Kingdom during the mid-2000s under the influence of genres such as house, grime, dubstep, UK garage, R&B, and wonky. UK garage, a style of electronic music and an offshoot of garage house that usually features a distinctive 4/4 percussive rhythm with chopped-up vocal samples. UK hardcore, UK hard house. Unblack metal, black metal which lyrics praise Christianity rather than dissing it, like in stand black metal, which often focuses on Satanism or anti-Christianity. Underground music. Uplifting trance. Urban cowboy, a soft, mellow style of country pop made following the release of the film Urban Cowboy. Urban Pacifica, a blend of hip-hop, reggae, and traditional Polynesian musical styles. Vallenato, accordion-based Colombian folk music. Vaporwave. Vaudeville, a form of theater featuring unrelated acts, including performers of popular and/or classical music, that became a popular form of entertainment in the United States until the rise of film. Verbunkos, Hungarian folk music. Verismo. Video game music, melodic music as defined by its media. Viking metal. Villanella, 16th century Neapolitan songs. Virelays. Visual kei, Japanese music scene, created around the 1980s. Visual music. Vocal house. Vocal jazz. Vocal music. Vocaloid. Volksmusik. Wela, chicken scratch, a Tejano o autumn fusion of polka, norteño and Native American music. Walking bass, a style of bass accompaniment which creates a feeling of regular quarter note movement, akin to the regular alternation of feet while walking. Wall of sound, a music production technique developed by Phil Spector in which a large number of musicians, including an orchestra, perform the same parts in unison and the resulting sound is re-recorded in an echo chamber. Used mostly by Spector himself for artists signed to his pop music label, along with some rock acts inspired by this style of production, most notably Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. Waltz. Wanga, Australian Aboriginal music genre. Werribee Yuta. Wasolu. War song. Walking song, Scottish folk songs, typically sung in Gaelic. These songs were often sung by women as they worked to soften woven tweed by hitting it against a solid surface, which would give the song rhythm. War music. West Coast blues, a form of jump blues developed in California by Texas blues musicians that move there. West Coast hip-hop music originating from the western United States, largely Los Angeles, the first form of hip-hop not to originate from the East Coast. West Coast jazz. Western blues. Western swing, an up-tempo danceable form of country music that is heavily influenced by swing music. Witch house. Wizard rock, geek rock that's specifically about Harry Potter. Women's music or woman's music, women's music 1970s lesbian/feminist. Wong shadow, 1960s Thai pop music. Wonky. Work song. Wood, sounds of organic synthesis recorded on organic medium such as tape. World beat, a music genre that combines rock and pop music with music that is usually labeled as world music. World music, music originating outside the Western world, although the term has occasionally been applied to various forms of Western folk music. This may also include Latin music, music from the Caribbean, and regional forms of Western popular music that are performed in non-Western languages but are otherwise nearly indistinguishable in style. X. Cote is a Brazilian music genre and dance for pairs or groups of four. Kosa music. Y. Jas, a style of Polish jazz music from the 1980s and 1990s. Yeyu. Yeyet. Yopop. Yodeling. Youth crew. Euchre. Z. Zajal. Zamacuca, Peruvian folk dance of African origins and precursor of Zumba. Zumba, Argentinian folk dance and music genre. Zamrock. Zapin, derived from ancient Arabic music, Zapin is popular throughout Malaysia. Zarzuela, a form of Spanish operetta. Zul. Zybekico, Greek dance 9/8 rhythmus. Zef, South African music based in both rap and rave. Ziglabithi. Znameni chant, a unison, melismatic chant used in the Russian Orthodox Church. Zuglu. Zouk, French Caribbean, Guadeloupean, dance music. Zouklov, Guadeloupean music. Zulu music. Zydeco, a form of Creole music that tends to blend with other largely danceable genres and is centered on the accordion and the washboard.